Nor is a hardworking young man who has always wanted to be an adventurer, but due to him being a failure and his ungodly lack of talent, he was only ever able to learn one basic skill: parry. Nor has always been a hard worker. Even as a kid, he would do everything he could to help out his mom since she was really sick at the time. After handing her a cup of water, Nor needs to go feed the goats for the day, so he's going to take them up to the hills, but before he goes, his mom reminds him that he shouldn't go past the rocks that have been laid out, and Nor promises to be careful. He says he will also get some wild rabbits and nuts for dinner, and his mom is happy to have such a good kid, but she knows she isn't going to last much longer, so she calls Nor back to her, and while wiping the dirt from his face, she apologizes for not being able to do anything for him as his mother, but she asks Nor to please live life the way he wants to after she's gone. That night, Nor was making dinner, but as he goes to give his mom some soup, to his horror finds that she has passed on. Nor is deeply saddened by this, but after burying her, he decides to fulfill his mother's final wish and live his life for her sake. Nor doesn't really have any big ambitions, but he works hard to keep up his daily routine. Although he has gotten a lot more lonely in the house. Late at night, Nor is searching the top of his shelf when he accidentally falls over and grabs an old book. This is the same one his father used to read to him back when he was alive, about an adventurer and his many outstanding adventures across the lands. Dragon slaying, learning magic, and even dispelling a curse. Remembering these stories gives Nor a new goal to achieve. So for the next day, Nor dumps a lot of hay for the animals to eat while he's gone. And then he visits his parents' graves to tell them that he has found an ambition to strive towards, so he is going to do everything he can to become one. He says his final goodbye to his parents' graves and his childhood home before turning to embark on his adventure and crossing the barrier around his home for the first time. After leaving his home, he spends the night out in the woods, and by the next day, he has finally made it to the big city. He walks up to the city gates to ask about the location of the Adventurers Guild, and the guards are nice enough to point him the right direction. Nor walks through the gates and is amazed by the sight he sees before him. This is more people than he has ever seen in his entire life, and they are all living in the same place. While walking through the streets, Nor bumps into an adventurer, and his eyes instantly light up even more as he remembers why he came here to begin with. Nor eventually arrives at the Adventurers Guild, and he is ready to make his dream come true. But the only thing standing in his way is the buff receptionist who tells him that he is too young to become an adventurer and should just head home before his parents get worried. However, seeing as both of Nor's parents are 6 feet under, becoming an adventurer is the only thing Nor can aspire to do. The receptionist now understands Nor's situation a bit better, so he goes up to him and says Nor can become an adventurer. Most of your adventurers aren't as young as him, but if he really wants to do it, he's not going to stop him. However, the receptionist has one condition. Nor must first go to a training school, so that he can acquire some useful skills. It doesn't matter if it's swordsmanship, magic, or archery. Nor just needs to learn useful skill. Nor is happy that he is being given a chance, so he immediately heads over to the training school to begin learning. As he arrives at the gate, he decides that he will learn swordsmanship, since the story from his adventurer book said the adventurer used a sword to slay a dragon in a single swing. Nor begins his training arc, but as he is practicing, a random background character unlocks his hidden potential. Nor sees this and is just motivated to work even harder, but by the time a few months have passed, all the other background characters have unlocked their abilities, and Nor is the only one who can't get anything special to happen. Eventually, the instructor tells Nor that he should stop, but Nor pleads with him for a little more time to practice. However, the instructor tells him that no amount of time is going to get him a sword skill. It has been months of training, and while it's unfortunate, if Nor hasn't gotten a skill by now, then he will likely never get one, so he should stop wasting his time. The only thing he has managed to learn this entire time is how to parry attacks, so the instructor advised Nor to choose a different profession since his talent may lie elsewhere. Nor is disappointed that he can't become a swordsman, but he takes his instructor's advice and goes to a different training school to learn how to become a warrior. But after several months of grueling training, all Nor has been able to accomplish is achieving a slightly better physique than before. The instructor can't let him continue training any further in this profession, otherwise it could become dangerous to his health. Nor still doesn't give up yet and tries becoming a hunter instead, but even that doesn't work as he destroys all the bows he tries to handle. Nor keeps trying various different professions, but no matter what he tries, he is only ever able to learn the weakest skills and is ultimately faced with the reality that he has no talents whatsoever. He returns to the Adventurers Guild to tell the receptionist what happened and the fact that Nor spent 3 months at every training school in the city. It didn't manage to learn a single profession sounds impossible to him. However, while he feels bad for Nor, he can't let Nor become an adventurer when he doesn't have the skills necessary to survive as one. Nor returns home, having failed to achieve what he set out to do, but even though he knows that he has no talent for adventuring, he is still determined to overcome that by training even harder than before. He carves a practice sword out of wood so that he can be in his new training routine, and while he didn't manage to learn anything professions, he did learn a sword skill at the beginning. So he's going to keep training that skill in hopes that he may eventually unlock a new skill. He vows to train every morning, afternoon, and night, but even after a full year of training, Nor still hasn't managed to acquire a new skill yet. However, he is now able to parry 10 attacks at a time, so he knows he is at least improving a little. 3 years later, Nor's training has improved his parry skill to the point where he can now parry over 100 swords at once, that he still hasn't gotten any new skills. So he continues training day and night until this sword ends up shattering in his hands. After 10 more years of this training routine, Nor's parry skill has developed to the point that he is now capable of the Mikiri parry and can parry an entire forest with one arm. But even with his godly parry skills, he still hasn't been able to acquire any new skills. At this point, he realizes that no amount of training is going to unlock a new skill for him. So Nor decides to give it one last try and head to the Adventurers Guild to see if he meets their requirements now. But as he gets there and writes down his skills, aside from parry, everything else is pretty much useless. She asks him if these are really all the skills he has, and Nor answers yes. So the receptionist suggests that Nor take a look at the training program so he can get some more useful skills. But Nor tells her that he has already gone to every training school in the city, and he hasn't been able to gain any useful skills in spite of it. The receptionist apologizes, but there is nothing she can do to help him register since his skills don't meet the criteria for registration. Just then, the former receptionist, Turn, who's now the guild master, comes out of the back to see what's going on, and Nor immediately recognizes him. But the man takes a minute to remember who Nor is since Crew's so big. Once he finally remembers Nor, he sits down with Nor and asks how he has been. So Nor tells him everything he has done since he last met the man, which was literally nothing but training. However, through all that training, Nor was only really able to improve his parry skill a little. The guild master tells Nor that there are different ranks of adventurers, and to become an E-rank adventurer, Nor would need to have at least 2 useful skills. But since he doesn't meet that criterion, he can't become an E-rank adventurer. However, that doesn't mean there is no way for him to become an adventurer, as there is a rank below E-ranked, which just requires you to have 2 functioning brain cells. Nor is excited to hear this, but the good master tells him that there are conditions for this rank, meaning he is forbidden from taking on any quests that involve killing monsters or leaving the city to gather items. That restricts him to quests that are basically miscellaneous tasks that no one else wants to do. No one has ever been dumb or desperate enough to agree to become F-ranked, but there's a first time for everything, as Nor asks the guild master to sign him up for it. The guild master doesn't think it's a good idea, but Nor is so insistent that he caves and gives him an F-ranked license. Nor is really happy and immediately runs off to complete his first quest by using his physical enhancement to carry a ton of goods for delivery. He also uses the rest of his weak skills to help him in day-to-day quests, and he finds it to be very fulfilling. He has finally achieved his dream of becoming an adventurer and being of use to the people around him, even if it's just F-ranked. So while he still dreams of being something more than a glorified errand boy, he is happy with what he has. By the next day, we see Nor start the day off by single-handedly clearing out a gutter for an old lady, after which he begins his construction job by carrying a metric ton of cement on his shoulders and making it look like lightweight. So by the end of the day, the construction foreman thanks Nor for all his hard work since they are way ahead of their usual schedule because of him. However, while the foreman is talking, Nor notices something coming from the dungeon behind him, and as he listens closely, he hears a girl screaming for help, and he's not going to act like he didn't hear her. So he starts sprinting to offer his aid. As he enters the dungeon, he finds a girl and her party being attacked by a huge minotaur, but Nor mistakes it for a big cow. He's never seen a cow this big up close, so Nor is stunned as the minotaur begins closing in on the girl and her party. The knights all try their best to defend her, but it's too late to try to escape now. So one of the knights just pushes the princess out of the way, but that results in him getting chopped in half. Mor tries to check on the fallen knight, but with him missing half his body, there's no way he survived the hit. The Minotaur continues slaughtering all the knights until the only one left alive is the girl, and she is currently unable to move, so if Nor doesn't do something soon, she will die as well. He picks up a sword and grabs a rock to throw at the Minotaur. This gets its attention, so the Minotaur charges at him, and as it tries to stab Nor with its horns, Nor performs a perfect parry and sends it flying into a Raymond building in the dungeon. The Minotaur gets backed up and begins striking at Nor with his axe, so Nor is forced to continuously parry the attacks, gets a single direct hit with killing. Normally, a person would only parry attacks in order to create an opening for a counterattack. However, Nor has no attack skill, so he is stuck on defense. The Minotaur suddenly remembers the girl is still alive, so it goes over to finish her off. However, Nor isn't going to let that happen, so he uses his feather step skill to quickly get in front of her and counter the axe strike. This causes his sword to shatter, but that isn't going to stop Nor since he has made up his mind that even if he can't be an amazing hero, he will always stay to protect the weak. So as the Minotaur attempts to strike again, Nor uses the broken sword to perform a Mikiri counter and sends the Minotaur's axe flying back at it and cutting the Minotaur's head off. Nor is relieved that he managed to win the fight and save the girl, but as she gets up and thanks him, Nor doesn't want to accept any credit for it and leaves without even telling her his name. Nor still thinks of himself as a failure of an adventurer, and he is under the impression that the monster he just fought was just an overgrown cow, so in his mind if he is still struggling this much with a cow, then he still has a lot of training to do. A while later, a cleanup crew is brought in to move the Minotaur, along with all the people who died fighting it, and Princess Lindbergh feels personally responsible for all their deaths. Just then, her knight Inns rushes up to her, apologizes for not accompanying her when she came out to the dungeon since it is her job to protect Lin, but Lin tells her it's not her fault. This was just meant to be a basic trial for the right to succeed the throne, so it wouldn't have made sense to force her knight to accompany her. Just then, another mate tells Len that they need to return to the castle soon since Lord Rain wants to have a word with her, and she already knows what this is going to be about. Back at the castle, Lord Ring has just finished speaking with Lin to understand what happened to her, but none of it makes sense to him. The only way a Minotaur could have ended up in that area of the dungeon was if it was magically summoned by someone, and the knight agrees with that assumption. He believes that the cause of the incident has something to do with a merchant who was found dead at the scene with a ring, and upon inspection it was discovered that the magic stone of the ring has an unusually high level of purity, and that's not something that can be sold on the market normally. A Minotaur is a threat A-level demon, so no random rich guy could buy something that could control one, and the crest on the ring indicates that it originated from the magical empire of Doritos, so Rain believes they were behind this since they've always had beef with him. But even then, the fact that they blatantly attempted to assassinate Lin and didn't even bother to get rid of the evidence, it must mean they are trying to bait Rain into starting a war, also they can gain control of the dungeon. That aside, Rain also has to think about the guy who saved Lin, since according to the reports, he was able to defeat the Minotaur in seconds with nothing but broken sword, and on top of that, the castle spies tried to follow him as he was leaving, but he literally vanished before their eyes. Rain can't believe what he's hearing, so he is really interested in figuring out who this mysterious warrior is. Meanwhile, Nord has just returned to the guild, and the guild master is surprised that he is still alive. He heard about a demon appearing in the dungeon, and it was right next to the construction site Nor was working on, so he thought Nor might have gotten himself killed. Nor apologizes for worrying him and explains that he was being followed by some shade people last night, so he had to shake them off and went home without reporting what happened. The guildmaster says Nor is lucky to be alive since a Minotaur is a demon that is so strong that even an A-rank adventurer would instantly die if they had to face it. Nor still doesn't realize that the guildmaster is talking about the same cow he killed, so he asks what happened to this demon, and the guildmaster tells him it was taken out by some mysterious man. Nor remains oblivious to the fact that he is the mysterious man in question, so he just carries in with the report for the jobs he completed today. The guildmaster gives him his payment, but he reminds Nor that he is better off just getting a regular job since he would get paid more that way. But Nor doesn't care how much money he makes as long as he gets to be an adventurer. Just then, Lin shows up behind Nor and says she is glad she finally found him. She apologizes for invading his privacy, but she really wanted to meet him again, so she used her long-distance detection skill to find him. Nor assumes she must be a thief-class adventurer if she has a detection skill, but Lin says she's actually a magician. She just has skills in all the different classes, even if they are only basic. The guild master and the other patrons are starting to recognize Lin, so she asks if she and Nor can talk outside, but before he does, the guild master grabs Nor and asks him what he did for Lin to be talking to him. Nor says he hasn't done anything illegal, meaning he shouldn't be in trouble or anything, so the guild master tells him to go with Lin and to make sure he doesn't do anything dumb. Outside, Lin conceals herself and Nor with one of her skills so no one can see them. And once they are finally in a secluded spot, Lin apologizes once more for barging in on Nor when a man with his power would probably be pretty busy. Nor says it's fine, so Lin begins by thanking him once more for what he did because not only did he save her life, but he also saved the lives of countless people in the nation. Nor doesn't think he deserves sick high praise since all he did was take down a cow. In fact, he is pretty sure Lin could have handled it by herself if he hadn't shown up. No idea how he drew that conclusion when he saw several mates get murdered by the same cow, so Lin tries to make him understand that she would have definitely died if he hadn't come to her rescue. Nor still doesn't think he did much to help her, but he accepts her thanks. However, as Lin says she wants to offer him a reward to show her gratitude for helping her out, Nor tells her that a thank you is all he needs, so she doesn't have to give him anything else. Lin insists on giving Nor a reward, and her father is also asked to meet Nor as well, but Nora seriously doesn't want a reward. Lin tries one more time to get him to accept, but Nora is very firm on his no reward policy. Lin is getting desperate and asks Nora if there is anything she can help him with, or even she could even give him a territory of his own, but Nora just says he doesn't want it. Lin starts crying and tells that Nora has to accept her gratitude, and she's not moving from this spot until Nora says he will accept something from her. Nora remembers a time when he used this same tantrum technique to get a cleric to train him, and since he doesn't want Lin to end up standing here for hours, he ends up agreeing to meet with her father, but he still doesn't want any extravagant gifts. Lin is happy to hear it, so she says Nora should follow close behind her so she can use her concealment skills to make sure no one spots them. Eventually, Nora is brought to Lin's house, and as he is led inside, Lin asks him for his name, which Nora is happy to provide, but Nora still doesn't know who Lin is, so she apologizes for being rude and immediately introduces herself as Lindbergh Clays. That's a really long name, so she's usually called Lin. After seeing this house, Nora now realizes that Lin wasn't joking when she said her family was wealthy, so it makes sense why the guildmaster was worried about him making a fool of himself. As they are walking, they run into Ains, and Lin is happy to see her, so she runs up to her and asks where her father is. Ains tells her that her father is currently having a meeting with Rain, so he is a little busy now. But that aside, she wants to know who the man standing where there is. Lin explains that Nora is the one who saved her life, so Ains says she will lead them to Lin's father. Nora has never heard of a royal knight, so he assumes Ains must be a family maid, one that really loves wearing armor for some reason. You can also tell that Ains doesn't like him for some reason, but he has no idea why. As they are walking, they come across a dude chilling by the window, and as soon as he notices them, he gets up and asks what Ains is up to, and who this random guy is. Ains tells Gilbert to put his spear away since Nora is Lin's guest, and it is very rude to point weapons at guests. Gilbert realizes that Nora must be the person who saved Lin's life, so he puts his weapon down and Ains asks him to accompany them to the room because she can use all the help she can get. Gilbert now has a bad impression of Nora, and Nora can already tell that things aren't going to end well for him at this rate, but he keeps walking. In the throne room, the king is in the middle of a meeting with Rain, and he is upset because it is clear that Doratus doesn't care about honoring their peace treaty. Rain has been expecting this ever since the last meeting with the king of Doritas, where he demanded that the rights to the dungeon be relinquished to him. The demand was obviously rejected, but ever since then, the king of Doritas has been plotting their downfall. Just then, Lin and the others arrive in the throne room, and Lin excitedly goes over to greet her brother and father. Ains and Gilbert kneel to show their respect for the king, but Nora keeps on walking. Rain notices that Lin is wearing the disguised cloak, meaning she must have gone outside without permission, but she says she had to because there was no other way for her to find the man that saved her. The king realizes that she must be referring to Nora, and Nora apologizes for coming here in such a messy state, but Lin wanted to come here as soon as possible. He also says he isn't an aristocrat or anything, so he isn't aware of the proper etiquette for situations like these, so he may accidentally say something rude, but the king tells him that he's fine with it, since it is much easier to speak without having to worry about etiquette. The king extends his hand to Nora and formally thanks him for saving Lin's life. Nora says it's no big deal, so a simple thank you is enough for him, but the king says he can't let Nora go without giving him a decent reward, so he says Nora can ask for any amount of money or land he wants. However, Nora still doesn't want anything. The king is taken aback, but he still raises the reward about offering Nora half of all the treasures they have acquired from the dungeon. Rain thinks a reward like that is too much to be given to a single man, but Nora still doesn't want it though. The king doesn't know what to give Nora since he keeps rejecting everything, so he goes over to his throne and picks up the sword, hanging on it as a gift for Nora. Rain doesn't think it's a good idea to give away such a valuable sword, but the king says it's okay since he never uses it anymore and no one would find out as long as he replaces it with a replica. He hands it to Nora, and as soon as it is in Nora's hand, and he can feel how heavy it is. From how Rain reacted, Nora can tell that the sword is worth a lot, and he doesn't want to accept any extravagant gifts, but the king says it's just something he picked up while he was still an adventurer, so it's fine for Nora to accept it. Nora agrees to accept it, so the king asked him to give it a test swing. Nora obliges and swings the sword in the air, generating a huge amount of force and surprising everyone around him. The king praises Nora for being able to swing the sword with one hand, but he also has a request to make. He wants Nora to help train Lin on how to be an adventurer, but Nora says there's nothing he could possibly teach someone as talented as Lin, and besides, Nora thinks Lin should be the one to decide something like this for herself. After that, Nora thinks he should probably start heading home, and as he is leaving, he realizes something special about his sword. It is the perfect shape to fit inside the gutters they usually cleans, so he is going to try it out tomorrow morning. Before he leaves, he's approached by Inns, and she says she wants to talk with him. First, she apologizes for her rude behavior earlier, as it was completely uncalled for, but Nora says he doesn't mind at all. Her job is to protect the Clay's family at any cost, so she is deeply grateful to Nora for saving the life of Lynn, and to express her gratitude, she promises to assist Nora if he ever needs help. Nora doesn't want to go back and forth with her about this, so he just accepts her offer and says he will ask her if he ever needs anything. That aside, Inns also warns Nora that he is never allowed to speak to the king so casually again, because even if the king allowed it for now, she will not let such disrespect slide next time. Nor says he understands, so Eames is in a good mood and asks him for his name, and upon hearing that his name is Nor, she seems oddly shocked. Nor asks if he did something wrong again, but Eames says it's nothing and takes her leave. Nor is about to leave as well, but he is stopped by Gilbert, who wants to challenge him to a fight. Rick follows him, but he is exhausted from all the running around today and just wants to head home, so he asks Gilbert what they are supposed to be doing. Just then, Nor realizes that they've arrived at the castle's training room, and Gilbert tells him he wants to have a mock battle with Nor. Nor hasn't gotten to practice with another person since his days back in the training schools, so he's actually pretty enthusiastic about this. Gilbert walks up to the weapons rack and tells Nor that he's pretty well known in the royal capital, so he wants to see what the hero who saved Lynn is capable of in battle. And Nor is happy to accept since he sees it as a great chance to improve his skills. He personally doesn't think he will be able to beat Gilbert, but it's a good opportunity nonetheless, so Nor wants to make the most of it. A small crowd is gathered around them, and they feel sorry for the poor soul who chose to go up against Captain Gilbert. But as the match begins, Gilbert makes the first move, and this poor soul easily dodges it. Gilbert continues to attack, and while Nor is dodging his attacks, he remarks that Gilbert's moves are incredibly precise. He can only imagine the amount of training Gilbert had to do to get himself to this level. There's one thing he can't understand. If Gilbert is such a skilled adventurer, then why are his attacks so slow? Nor has never practiced with another person before, so he assumes that Gilbert must be moving slow intentionally since Nor is a novice adventurer. Nor calls for a timeout and tells Gilbert that he doesn't have to go easy on him that much. And while Gilbert was indeed holding back a little, he agrees to take things up a notch, so he charges at Nor with full force. His attacks are much faster now, but Nor still finds it odd that Gilbert is leaving himself wide open for a counterattack. Nor thinks there's no way Gilbert can possibly be this defenseless against him, so he assumes that Gilbert must be luring him in for a trap. Meanwhile, Gilbert doesn't understand why he can't land a single hit on Nor with his spear, so he tries using one of his signature moves on Nor, but while Nor is surprised, he simply jumps into the air to evade it. And when Gilbert tries to strike him mid-air, he just sucks underneath the attack. None of these attacks have made Nor so much as break a sweat, so he tells Gilbert that it's fine if he speeds up even more since he's been going way too slow. Gilbert's pride is wounded by that statement, and Nor's finally starting to realize that all this solo training might have actually made him strong, but all of a sudden, Gilbert uses his ultimate skill in an attempt to at least land one hit on Nor. But once the dust has settled, Nor has vanished and appears by Gilbert's side, and to Gilbert's surprise, Nor says he gives up. After that, Nor heads home for the day, and he's glad he made it out of there before things hit bad. But back at the training hall, Gilbert's subordinates are busy trying to come up with reasons why Gilbert is definitely still stronger than Nor, even though his ultimate move didn't work. But deep down, Gilbert knows that he lost in every way imaginable. He had had a talent for the spear ever since the first day he picked one up, so there was no one who could stand up to his power. The more he trained, the more powerful his techniques got, and the more strength he gained. But through it all, he felt nothing but boredom since he never found a worthy opponent for himself. He went around the kingdom in search of strong opponents, but after he has already defeated every warrior in this particular village, the village chief apologizes and says there was no one here to match his strength. The chief goes on to tell them that there are rumors going around about the relations between the kingdom and a foreign country collapsing, so they are calling for strong troops to prepare for the likelihood of war. So if Gilbert is lucky, he might end up meeting someone who can give him the challenge that he has been so desperately looking for. Well, Gilbert returned to the capital, and no single troop member was capable of standing up to him, and demon slaying was no longer a fun endeavor for him either, no matter how big the demon was. He was sick of being surrounded by weaklings. One day, while he was relaxing under a tree, his instructor walks up to him and asks why he looks so glum when he has just been crowned the Spear Sovereign. Even with a fancy title, Gilbert is still as bored as ever since he's surrounded by total weaklings. His instructor brings up that Gaines is a strong person, and while Gilbert agrees that she is strong, it's more of a different kind of strength. So whenever they have mock battles, Gilbert always ends up being the definitive victor. He thinks things would be a lot more interesting if there were more competent people around like his instructor. And he knows his instructor must be bored as well, especially since he has to train a bunch of rookie adventurers who don't even measure up to the power in his pinky finger. The instructor admits that it is a bit boring, but he is tasked with defending the kingdom, and no matter how strong he is, he can't win an entire war by himself. Besides, he is sure that someday an adventurer will show up that surpasses him in strength. When Gilbert heard about a man who managed to defeat a minotaur by himself, he wanted to meet him personally, but Nor makes no sense at all. He showed no interest in the most lavish gifts the king had to offer, and he was so casual with the king that Gilbert had to respect him for it. While fighting Nor, Gilbert couldn't sense the power necessary to defeat a minotaur, but that doesn't change the fact that Nor was able to dodge all of his moves. Even when he busted out his supersonic spear strike, it still did nothing against Nor, while it would have been a guaranteed death sentence to any other person. On top of that, Nor forfeited the match out of nowhere. Gilbert assumes Nor did it out of courtesy since he didn't want to embarrass him in front of his subordinates. As Nor was leaving, Gilbert noticed a bunch of cracks in the floor. He has no idea how they got here or what Nor did to cause them. But what he does know is that Nor was able to dodge his ultimate attack while he was at full power, so he has finally found truly worth opponent he has been searching for. As Nor walks home, he thinks about how foolish he was to think that he was strong. When Gilbert used his ultimate attack, even after Nor used his physical enhancement and feather step abilities, he was only able to barely evade the strike, and Gilbert must have been holding back just enough to prove a point since there's no way he would actually use a lethal move in a mock battle. He feels thankful to Gilbert for reminding him that he is still weak, so he is going to train even harder from now on. The next morning, Nor is busy with his usual gutter cleaning job and he is using the legendary sword to do it. He is shocked at how well the sword works for this, since the gutters have never been so clean before, and thanks to the sword's durability, it hasn't gotten even slightly scratched after all Nor has done with it. However, once he's done with his gutter cleaning, he is left with nothing to do since his construction job got put on hold because of the incident in the dungeon. Since he is only allowed to accept F-rank jobs, if work in the royal capital ever dries up, there may be entire days that he will have nothing to do, and Nor doesn't want that to happen since his goal is to be useful to people. He considers starting a boat ride business and using the sword as an oar, but then he realizes that he would have to own a boat for that. He considers making pizzas, but then you would need an oven. He finally considers making a grill out of his sword, but that won't work either since he can only make a flame with his fingertips. Just then, Nor hears some rustling in the bushes, so he turns around and finds Lin standing there. She apologizes for showing up like this, but she couldn't find him at the guild, so she asked the guild master where Nor would be. Nor understands, but he didn't tell the guild master his exact location, so Lin must have used her tracking abilities to find him. Nor asks why Lin is here, so she gets straight to the point and tells Nor that she has a special request to ask of him. She wants Nor to accept her as his page, but Nor has never even heard of a page before, so Lin explains that it is an unpaid assistant who takes care of all of Nor's daily necessities in hopes of gaining some useful knowledge from him. She is fine with just being allowed to hang around Nor, and she promises that she won't cause him any trouble. But Nor still refuses. She asks if she has done something to offend Nor or if he thinks she is unreliable, but Nor tells her that's not the case. She tries to assure him that she can be of use since she has scored the highest marks in all 6 training schools, but her competence isn't the issue here. There's just nothing for Nor to teach her, and he doesn't need her to help him with his work either since he is perfectly capable of doing it on his own. Lin tries to offer Nor a huge salary if he agrees to be her instructor, but he still doesn't care about money, so Lin offers to let him use her to do whatever he wants, but Nor turns her down again. He really just doesn't have anything for Lin to do, but she remains insistent and wants to prove to him that she can be useful. So she takes out her wand and says she's going to demonstrate her competence. She casts an ice spell to fire several icicles at herself, but before she gets hit, she uses a fire spell to destroy them. She tells Nor that this is the highest level of magic she can use, and in addition to that, she has also learned the secret skill of the thief class called Mistblade. She learned it directly from the Sovereign of Shadows, and it's strong enough to easily cut down a tree with one swing. Next up, she wants to show Nor her sword skill, so she sends a divine slash straight towards Nor, but he effortlessly evades. The damage that is done to the tree is proof of how powerful the move is, and it's even got bonus damage when used against undead monsters. She's about to show him more of her skills, but Nor tells her that he has seen enough. Lin thinks this means he is willing to accept her as his page, but Nor still denies her request. Nor realizes Lin must think he is someone who is worth studying under, but after seeing everything she is capable of doing, Nor honestly feels inferior compared to her. He tries telling her once more that there's nothing he can teach her. But Lin takes that to mean that Nor thinks she is too weak to become his student. She asserts that her power has been acknowledged by all the 6 sovereigns, and she is sure she can be useful to Nor in some way if he lets her join him. Nor's point still isn't getting through, so he tells Lin that she possesses many amazing skills, but this is the current limit of Nor's skills. Lynn is left speechless and leaves Nora alone for today, but as she's walking home, she recounts the story of a boy with no talent who went through all 6 training schools. People often thought this was nothing more than a made-up legend since most adults would crumble under the pressure of the rigorous training program at one school, let alone complete the courses at all 6. And Lynn had thought it was a fake story as well, but she actually got to meet this person. Back when she was studying magic, Oaken showed her something interesting about the basic spell Tiny Flame. While the flame created is usually as small as a point, with enough practice, one can make the flame slightly bigger. It had no practical use to him, but he had been alive for 200 years at this point, so practicing the tiny flame became a hobby for him. Since she saw that, Lynn has made several attempts to make her tiny flame slightly larger, but no matter what she does, it doesn't grow at all. It's something that requires tireless devotion over a long period of time, which is precisely why she was so shocked when Nora was able to create a massive tiny flame many times bigger than what Oaken could have ever done, and Oaken is the greatest wizard in the world. For Nora's skills to be at such a level means he far outclasses anything Lynn could pull off, and it was all done through his own effort. However, all the spells Lynn demonstrated were just things she had memorized. Nora had the power to defeat a Minotaur, that he still lives a regular life without bragging or showboating, so Lynn believes Nora's not only strong in body and also in mind. In the near future, she will be in a position to lead this kingdom alongside her brother and father, and the rule of the Clay's family is that those with royal blood must be strong. So she wants to learn how to attain strength like Nora's. So if Nora doesn't want to be her instructor, then she's just going to have to stalk him as much necessary until he agrees to train her. This was the end of episode 3. Subscribe to not miss the next part.